Greetings and salutations, my minions. Kunic here, back with yet another RPG horror story, or shall I say two. And yeah, these stories are a little bit spicy, dealing with some pretty sensitive subjects, so just a heads up in advance. But first, I have to announce that today's episode is brought to you by Crown of the Oathbreaker. Crown of the Oathbreaker is a dark adventure campaign that'll take your players from level 5 to level 12. But don't think that this will be a railroad, as it's been designed from the ground up to offer a multi-layered sandbox for your players. You get 27 dungeon maps, 36 new subclasses and archetypes, 15 new spells along with 13 new feats, and 19 new, unique monsters. But there's a ton more than what I've mentioned, and everything is also beautifully illustrated. You can get the full playbook for as little as $20 USD, and heck, you can even purchase their Become an NPC bundle, where you can provide a picture of yourself that'll be illustrated and fully fleshed out as a character. Check out their Indiegogo page in the description to pre-order. Products will actually begin shipping next month, so be sure to get it in soon. And as an added bonus, scan the QR codes on screen to be taken to the iOS or Android app stores for their free Elder Brain Soundscape app. No matter where your players are, this app will help set the mood. And it's what's been playing as the ambiance for this sponsorship. Okay, and with that all said, let's roll for initiative and get into the stories. Story number 1. Alpha Male DM doesn't understand how consent works. I was in a 3.5 campaign as a mentally handicapped monk. It was tasteful, I swear. And the DM thought he could use my general lack of agency for a super funny joke / sarcasm. A brief background on the DM. He was a very, I'm above this attitude about most things. When we all considered the idea of doing a TTRPG YouTube show with some friends, he brought up that we should include a trigger warning in the intro. Because all the butthurt special snowflakes will probably try to sue us for emotional damage. Or something. Moving on. The gist of my character was that he misinterpreted social situations, and told stories of past experiences relating to, or so he thinks, the situations we find ourselves in, which was inspired by my own experiences, having a hole in my brain somewhere. Plenty of laughs are had, and I don't feel like I'm crossing any lines in the process. Since one of the players in the party was the main character, wait, what? And another was the DM, except 15 years younger and in shape, I was fairly subservient, which didn't really get in the way of the character I was playing, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Until it was. My character, the MC, and the DM all walk into a bar. We have some light roleplay where my character regaled his audience with the tale of 2 monks from his hometown, daring him to hit on a girl, and the smack in the face that followed. I get a few laughs, and the DM decides that it's time that my half-drunk, full Goliath character finally makes it with a woman. He pays a young lady, and she attempts to escort my character into another room. I describe how my character, not fully aware of what's going on, holds onto the bar while she gingerly pulls me away. I'm making full eye contact with the DM while this is happening, trying to send an overt message without saying anything out of character. But he'd already made his decision. My character is pulled into another room, and I become legitimately stressed out. Without going into detail, I don't blame my DM for not knowing that I have a history of being violated, nor that you can probably find the footage online somewhere. But that doesn't give him the right to assume his players are okay with roleplaying being violated. Like, full stop. Weird that he ignored that I'm a gay man, though. Not fully sure of how to roleplay a mentally handicapped person being pulled away from his friends and being violated, I decided to turn it into a really blue joke, shouting things like, "What the hell is happening?" and "It won't stop coming out!" That definitely turned the tone around, as the players are all laughing at an otherwise super creepy scene. And after it was over, it was simply over. Nobody even mentioned that it happened. That, or nobody wanted to talk about it. During the car ride home, I brought up that scene, and another player who witnessed it said, "Yeah, I don't know why he did that. You were really obviously not cool with it." So I know I wasn't being too subtle. If I had a chance to do it again, I'd tell the DM that I play D&D to have fun and explore narratives, and getting violated contradicts that. I'd allow him to finish the scene by himself without my input, letting him watch him violate my character. Edit. Thank you everyone for your well wishes. I promise you, I'm okay and totally over it now. As for the player who understood what was happening and didn't say anything, he's generally a quiet guy, who probably, rightfully, assumed I didn't need rescuing from the DM. Yes, what the DM did was shitty, and I would have preferred if nothing of the sort had happened, but really no part of it was his fault, and I'd like it if people didn't put him in the same bracket as the DM. For those of you asking, why didn't you just say no? I half addressed that, saying that if I were put in that place again, I'd just step out of the game and let the DM run the scene solo without me. As for why I didn't, I simply didn't want to be that guy. I know that's a shitty answer, but that's how I thought back then. If you're uncomfortable but don't want to be that guy twice as loud. It's better than role-playing being a mentally handicapped person being violated. End post 1. Yeah, that's certainly a problem that I think a lot of players have had when they're at a terrible table, but are too new to know if what they're doing is appropriate for the game or not. And I think in that instance, if you are in that kind of a situation, trust your gut over your naivety. You may be new, but if something like this is happening to you, or something you're just not comfortable with happening is happening, let the DM know. They may be used to it amongst their own friend group, but not realize that this new player doesn't enjoy it. So it's better to speak up and be a that guy than not. And for the DM, they really should have checked with the players if they were cool with this happening or not, because I would wager the vast majority of players are not going to be cool with this. And as for the whole YouTube thing, I say go for it. Yes, you're not gonna ever be able to please everybody, and no matter how hard I try, I still get hate comments every so often. So really, the criticism's just sort of par for the course, but the potential rewards far outweigh that. In my opinion, growing this community has been one of the most rewarding things I have done in my entire life, and I legitimately enjoy chatting with each and every one of you over in the Discord and in the comments below. So if you think you have something that you could really bring to the table that would be entertaining for people, why not post it on YouTube and see? You know, worst thing that could happen is you say you tried. Anyhow, onwards to story number 2, because that's what your character would do. A sad story. Been playing a few months with this group. The DM and other players developed this new RPG style by combining everything they liked from all the versions of D&D. It's a bit of a mess. It's not really functional, but that's not what I'm here for. Perhaps I will explain it in the comments if you're interested. The main problem is that the actions of our supposedly flawed characters are constrained by the will of the DM. For context, here's some bits of info about the party and the omnipresent main quest looming over us. The group is composed by a tiefling necromancer, a half-orc fighter, a mind-bending human rogue, a wizard-ish human werewolf, and a human priest who worships the god of time. We are currently trying to locate and defeat a sorcerer who can clone, seemingly as she pleases, almost every NPC we are encountering. She is working with a triplet of necromancers who invented new races thousands of years ago. Tiefling, Leonid, and other races are man-made in this universe, although we discovered that a banished divinity guided them for reasons, because this will allow it to escape his pocket dimension/prison. The banished god apparently is actually the brother of the father of all gods, but I'm afraid I will digress too much if I explain whatever the F is happening in this hellscape of a story. We had problems since the start, being heavily railroaded to the only way feasible for the DM plans, facing an inconsistent level-up system, not giving us possibilities to roleplay, retconning events for plot twists' sake, etc. But my personal last straw was last time when the DM's self-insert and love interest of the rogue got kidnapped by a vampire, who usually hide themselves in their personal death dimension, while nobody was watching. Of course, we rushed to the scene, and we let our time priest do his thing, to have vision of the past nearly at will. The rogue is having an endgame panic attack, due to him rolling really low on his calm check. At one point, he rolls a -3 and decided, F this, I'm teleporting away to find some help in the nearest city. The DM responded with an outraged tone, I'm not letting you do that. Your character would not leave their companions behind. And why is that? Am I not, like, having a huge panic attack? I am not my normal self?" asked the rogue. "Because I know your character, and he would never do such a thing. I'm not letting you do that, period," the DM responded. This wasn't the first time that something like that happened, but this time it sparked a big discussion about the DM needing to intervene whenever the players stepped out of line. The line supposedly being their in-game character, and how it was for our sake, really, because the DM had 13 years of experience in role-playing games, so she absolutely knew what we would, or should, do in this situation. I, unfortunately, kept my mouth shut, since I'm a little shy of sharing my point of view to an easily offended person, so don't make my mistake. If something feels wrong, and you are backed up by other players who also feel that something is wrong, then talk to your DM, regardless the personal consequence. End post. Yeah, this kind of rhymes with the point I was trying to make with story number 1. If something just does not feel right, trust your gut. You don't have to get mad at anyone, but, ask the DM. Let them know that, hey, you're not cool with whatever's happening, and maybe you guys can come to a common ground and find a mutual sort of landing for one another. That said, railroading is never fun. I get that it takes a lot of time to create a campaign for your players to play, but there is also an air of improv involved. If your players want to do something entirely out of left field, you kind of need to be able to adapt to that as needed. Now, yes, you may want them to follow the main plot hook, but having a little bit of detour and that level of freedom is kind of what D&D is all about. So you need to be a little bit flexible in that sense, and then maybe use that as a means to steer them back to the main plot. That way, they're railroaded, but it doesn't necessarily feel like that. And from every great D&D game I've been in, that's kind of how the DM has handled it. Anyhow, that's all for today's stories. As always, the source to both of them is in the description below. And if you like the video and you want to see more videos just like this one, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon to be notified of my future videos. Now, while you wait for my future videos, here are a few related videos that you can watch in the meantime.